Greetings. I'm your host, Ilene Carol, and you're listening to Unseen to Unstoppable, where we share inspiring journeys from trial to triumph. Today's guest is Tam Tam, a singer-songwriter whose genre-blending career spans over 3 decades, beginning with reggae under the name Minx and evolving into a vibrant fusion of pop, reggae, EDM, and world music. A breast and thyroid cancer survivor, she returned to music in 2019 with a renewed mission to inspire, culminating in her 2025 album, A Message for You. In addition to her music, she promotes wellness through her brand, Yoga for Liberty. Tam Tam, welcome. Did I pronounce your brand right? I think that's what I wanted to ask you. Did I pronounce your brand correctly? Maybe you can say it correctly, your brand.
Yes, you did. It is Yoga for Liberty. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you are able to be on. I know you've been a supporter of Women's Quarterly for so long. We see you supporting our posts and we support yours. And so we really, really, really appreciate that. I was looking at
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was looking at your bio and going over it, and I just had some questions that I thought would be good for conversation. It seems like within your musical journey, it says you started singing Motown as a child in Pittsburgh to immersing yourself in Caribbean sounds in Montserrat. How did that cultural shift influence your identity as an artist?
Well, first of all, like I said, thank you so much for having me. Anything that is women empowering women, I am such a strong advocate for. That's why I've been supporting Women's Quarterly on social media for quite a while now. Yeah, my beginning singing was from a very young child. I would try to get attention from anyone. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I really took to Motown, all of Motown, R&B, so many lists of artists that I would listen to. And I would literally just stand up on a table, try to find anything that could mimic a mic and just wanted to sing and be heard and wanted to be an entertainer. So it really started there. And then your question about when I moved as a young teenager to the small Caribbean island called Montserrat. It's a very small island, but very heavily influenced by reggae, soca, and calypso. I knew a little bit and heard a little bit about reggae, but I didn't really get the whole entire package of it until I moved to that island. And it was what was called the pepper seed era of reggae, which is one of the best times in reggae music. So I just was fully enwrapped and engulfed in that whole entire music genre and started to really be a part of it through dance, through music, learning about it from there. And then just really, it changed my whole entire musical identity. It changed my whole entire language and vocabulary because even though English is the primary language, all of the Caribbean islands have their own dialect and their Montserratian dialect. It has like an Irish lingo because it has a lot of background, Irish background. Even the flag has an Irish woman strumming a harp. So it has that. So some of the dialect has some words and lingo with that, but heavily influenced by reggae, which is primarily Jamaican culture. So it was easy for me to adapt to that patois as well. So patois meaning broken English. So when I think now from being there, I think in patois, I think in broken English, even if I come across talking very proper English, very much culturally influenced by Caribbean culture, Caribbean music, and everything that surrounds that.
That's amazing that you can have had that experience growing up. I want to go back to the Motown aspect. Anyone in particular that has inspired you? Any Motown singers? Since I grew up in the Motown era, so anyone in particular that stands out?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, everyone from Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder. I mean, everybody that was in that whole group and circle. I used to stand on the table and sing Whitney Houston. I was really, really like memorizing all of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 music. One that wasn't really in the Motown circles that I literally used to pretend I was lip syncing and part of his music videos was Billy Ocean, who is from the Caribbean. So like
Yes,
literally just
yes,
like Caribbean Queen when the
yes.
going gets rough. I used to go in my basement and pretend I was in a music video. Like
Wow.
I knew then that I wanted to do that, and just anything that had that R&B soul Motown vibe, I was really into it, loved it, was trying to memorize all the music and really just wanted to be a part of the whole music industry.
And you started performing professionally. You were only 16 years old. What gave you the confidence to do that?
So I really just put myself out there as much as I can. I started off doing talent shows at school. Back when I lived in Montserrat, I would put myself in a lot of different groups of people that were heavily into music, which really influenced me. And then when I moved back um, in high school, when I moved back to Pittsburgh, I just joined like every single talent show, the choir, like everything musically in high school that I could join. And then when I turned 19, I moved to Brooklyn, New York. And my senior year of college, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, and really just started to from an early age put myself in front of opportunities if I could. So back in Pittsburgh, I was told about a television show that was in the works that was a reggae television show. And so I went and auditioned for that, and I became the VJ and like the assistant editor of Reggae Panorama. So I started interviewing a lot of famous reggae artists, and that same producer said that he heard that there was a reggae band that was auditioning for singers. Now, I wasn't really a reggae singer. I was more studying like the DJing and the sing-jaying, which is more like rapping. So I went there and I auditioned, but I said, "Can I do my thing?" And when the leader of the band heard that, he automatically wanted me to come into the band no matter what, even if I couldn't sing that well, like what he was looking for. And then they taught me how, because I played piano, so they taught me how to play the keyboards. So I became one of the keyboardists, and I did some background vocals, but they had another female do most of them. But I would come on at certain times to do what we call the DJing, the reggae rap in certain songs, and that's you know really how I started professionally. My first recording was at 16, but really trying to put myself in any opportunity that I could find where I could, improve on my craft and also perform on stage because I really love to do that.
That's amazing. So, in the bio, we mentioned that when I was reading your bio that you went from Minx to Tam Tam. What was the evolution behind that, and how did that transformation, what did that mean to you personally?
Well, there are several reasons that I decided to change the name. Minx was a nickname that was given to me. In the Caribbean, we all have nicknames. So Minx was a nickname that was given to me. I had a friend, her name was Jinx. And then when everybody else met me, they said, okay, Jinx and Minx. Minx, when people think of the name Minx, they don't necessarily think of it like that. Like
Hmm.
Minx is like a pert girl, a
Hmm.
mischievous girl.
Right.
Not saying I was never mischievous as a teenager, but that wasn't why I got the name. And it stuck with me. Even to this day, people still call me that.
Hmm.
They can't, it just flows for them. They're so used to calling me that. And it just stuck with me as a stage name. But when I got older, I took a long hiatus from the music industry, primarily to help raise my children, take care of the family, And so when I'm Googling the word Minx, I'm like, no, I can't have this name anymore. It doesn't fit who I am anymore.
Mhm.
And there's also a male reggae artist that took that name after I took the hiatus. So it was also would be becoming confusing because I was no
Right.
longer in that scene for a while. So I decided, and I dabbled with some other names. Like I had a track that came out as Empress T, and I had like one or two tracks as that. And then in 2019, when I really decided to come back into the music industry, I thought of what's another nickname that everybody calls me just randomly, and it's Tam Tam because my name's Tammy. And people, as we were talking, people do call me Tam sometimes, but like in a cute way, a lot of people just say, "Hey, Tam Tam." Like they'll just say that in a cute way. So I figured, let me just make that my next stage name.
Right. Now, I didn't know you were a mommy with children.
Yes, they're all teenagers now, but when I took the hiatus, my first child, the last show I performed at, my child was still an infant, and I just decided, listen, I need to focus. It was a time in music where mothers were not really accepted like that. You remember when Toni Braxton had that whole thing with her label? It was one of those times where if you had children, you basically just had to sit down. It was not a positive situation for women
Really?
in music. So this was in like the early mid 2000s.
Okay, maybe.
I mean, now I have witnessed women come into the studio with their children
Well,
and
I
embracing
know.
it, and
I
social media
know.
allows for many things, but back then it was kind of not really accepted for women to have a family but also pursue their music. There were so many things about image back then.
I don't know that I was aware of that, or maybe I just forgot of something I mentioned in our lobby. I don't know what that's called, the little waiting area, that I was in this really bad car accident. It wiped my memory, and so maybe some things I forgot. It just seems so odd to me that somebody would do that to somebody, but I guess so. It's a music industry. It's kind of cutthroat, I guess. So,
Yeah, it was different times. I'm so happy that there's some evolution, and there's acceptance of many different things with women and about women. But so I decided just to take a hiatus because I didn't just have one, I had three children. So and they were young, so I also didn't really like the direction the reggae industry was going. So I decided to just really just take a break for a while. And when I came back, I was a much more evolved, much more mature person.
what direction was the reggae music going into that you didn't particularly care for?
There's so many things to talk about with this, but one in particular is the way how reggae wasn't being recognized. So basically, mainstream music was taking reggae music, but they weren't recognizing reggae music, which means that reggae artists were not getting paid the same tier for doing live stage shows as regular mainstream pop artists that were using dancehall and reggae music in their songs.
You're kidding me.
So there was a lot of inequity in it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's just so
absolutely.
odd
And
to
there
me. I
still
didn't
is, but I think hopefully that can evolve.
understand that. Okay. All right. Wow. All right. Okay. So my goodness, I don't know where to start with you. You've done so many things. Okay, let me get my thoughts together. You've traveled so many places. Like where have you traveled to? And did you doing your expand of your music career, that you had the experience with being a mom, making that decision to step back, making a decision to stand your ground when it came to authenticity with the reggae industry? Was there a moment where you felt like, okay, I've finally arrived?
That's a great question. So I have traveled to many parts of the world. There's still some continents that I have not performed at that I
You
would
said
love to
continents.
have the opportunity.
The
Yeah, we're
rest of us
talking continents.
the rest of us are like, I haven't been to this city in the United States.
So I've performed obviously in the United States. I've performed in different parts of the Caribbean. I have performed in different parts of Europe and in Japan, which is in Asia. There are parts of all of those places that I still have not performed at. I've not performed in South America, and I do have a significant supporter fan base in parts of South America, so I'd love to do that in the future. And then also Africa, I haven't performed in Africa. So, yes, I have performed in a lot of different places. It's amazing to see how many places around the world love reggae music. Because I did all of those performances as Minx. And my very last performance as Minx was it was on Christmas Eve 2007 at BB King's House of Blues on 42nd Street in the Times Square area. I performed there with a reggae band, and that was my last show. And like I said, my son was an infant, and all I kept thinking is I need to get home to give him his bottle, So I was torn because I really love music, but I also, love and had that responsibility of being a mommy. So yeah, so I have performed on some of the biggest stages around the world. And you ask me, was there a specific moment that made me feel like I've arrived? There's been many different moments, especially in my early career. I will point out one and give a shout out to Easy Star Records. They're a independent reggae label. They have put out music with some of the biggest names in reggae. They heard my music and decided to put me on a very big record with some very big names in reggae, like Sister Nancy, Luciano, Anthony B. So being on that record, and back then it was records, it was the big record that I was being spun on, not digital music. So I got interviews all around the world, and I was able to be booked for shows all around the world. And that was a big push for me because I was on that record. So a very big shout out to all of the team over there at Easy Star Records. And so that was one I've arrived moment, but there have been several. But if I'm really to reflect on this question, I feel like the I've arrived has been when I put out this full-length album. So all those years I was doing my music, I never put out a full-length album. I've been on compilations, I've put out singles, but never a full-length album. And the way how this album was created, the different parts of how and why it was created, and then the feedback that I'm getting on the album, for me, is like the biggest I've arrived. And I look forward to more and more people listening to it because it is a message for everyone. But it definitely was such a accomplishment to be able to fulfill doing that first full-length album.
And you're in reference to, just for our listeners so we can stay on point, you're referencing your A Message for You album.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay. And since we're talking about that, what do you hope listeners take away from this album, to just expound on that?
I think the most important thing to take away from A Message for You is all the messages, the positive messages for people. Some people call it a spiritual journey of self-awareness. The album was both me reflecting internally from a very, very deep, loving place of what I've gone through, but also to send that message out to anyone else, everyone else, whether you're going through something or whether you just need a place to listen and hold in a state of meditation and self-awareness. There's a lot of inflections about positive affirmations in that album, and every song has its purpose and meaning. And following the album in order, people have been able to take that journey with me.
So let's switch gears just for a minute. I don't know how you did this, but it says that you faced 2 cancer diagnoses, breast and thyroid. If that's something you're willing to talk about, what happened? How did you come to knowledge of knowing about that? Where did you draw your strength from to survive that? Because it looks like while you were dealing with this, you were also completing your album before you had surgery.
Yeah, so I'm more than willing to talk about it and hoping that it will encourage full courage. We say more women and people to get checked for these type of things because cancer is more and more on the rise, unfortunately. And it's important to really get checked. And whatever treatment you choose, at least you're getting checked and you're aware of what's going on. So, during the pandemic, I was doing virtual yoga instruction. I was a yoga instructor helping people, get through things, open up their energy sources. And I started noticing pain in my arm. And it was something that was just getting worse and worse. So I just decided to go to the doctor and see what was going on. During that time, I also decided to get my first mammogram. My mammogram during the pandemic was actually canceled. So I didn't get it at the, age that women are supposed to start getting it. I had to wait. And so right after I turned 44, um, I decided to schedule it because now things were more open. There was still COVID, but it wasn't as bad as in, you know, early 2020. So I decided to get my first mammogram, and my first mammogram showed the cancer. And then did a repeat one, and so forth and so forth. And my cancer progressed and it spread to my lymph nodes. So I had been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, and I started treatment within like a week. I remember getting the chemo port and starting treatment within a week. And I went through the most intense breast cancer treatments that women can go through. So we're talking 8 rounds within 16 weeks of chemotherapy. I went through a bilateral mastectomy where they removed both breasts. I went through 25 rounds of radiation. And then I had a major reconstruction surgery where they took my abdominal fat and put it tissue and put it into making breasts. There were complications in all my surgeries, so I went through more and more surgeries. A lot of people don't know all of that stuff, but I'm happy to talk about that to let people know what women experience. And, there's a lot of treatment and a lot of medicine if you choose that route, and it creates a lot of side effects. So that's why my song, Be True to Yourself, I say not every day is a good one
Hmm.
because sometimes you're really struggling.
Yes.
But through all of that, I knew like my end goal, I need to keep going for my family, for my children, but I also want to continue to do my music.
Mm.
Like it definitely was an experience. And then so, you think you're fine. And then I got into a really bad car accident, a hit and run car accident last year in the fall. And the CT scan showed something on my thyroid. And so it was really kind of like a fluke that was found. And
Yeah.
so I had what they thought was early stage thyroid cancer. Turned out it was progressed into my lymph nodes again. So that was around October when I found that out. So, like, rewind back to November of 2023, I said to my husband, who's, my producer, we have our studio, we have an independent record label called Star Balance. And I said, I finally want to do an album. And he's like, okay, let's go. I said, but I'm not 100%, so I want to take time with it. So I had about half the songs done from November of 2023. My first song was the title track, A Message for You. I had recorded that first, and then I recorded 5 songs up until that meeting with the thyroid surgeon in October. And he basically said to me, Tammy, is there a way for you to finish your album before your surgery gets scheduled? Because you're going to have to get half your thyroid removed. And there's a small percentage chance that the surgery can hit your vocal cords and you might not be able to sing anymore. And he said, and quote, and this would end your music career. So for me, to take that, I took that as motivation to quickly finish that album. And as I've said to some of my closest supporters, and I will say on this podcast and to anybody else who knows my story, those 2 months brought some of the best writing and music out of me. Some of the songs like Unstoppable Power, Worthy, Set Your Intention, Love is the Answer came from those 2 months of perseverance before I had that surgery. And I literally finished the album with Set Your Intention, which is the first time I did dub poetry. That message and that song was written literally a week before my surgery. So I just finished the album right before my surgery.
Oh my goodness, wow. You are amazing. I'm gonna wonder myself where you where you pull all that strength from to go out. Because I was sitting there thinking, I was like, and she's a mom going through all of that chemo. I just can't even put my head around it. Now, something you said struck me during the COVID. You said, I think it was through your yoga, you were helping other people deal with their own emotions. I guess because everybody was in a panic, their anxiety was probably high. Is that what was going on? And your business was able to help people with that?
Yeah, I even founded a nonprofit during COVID to put on virtual showcases to mix music and balance, like yoga, meditation, Pilates, so that people at home could have a space
Mm-hmm.
to, not just sit on the couch and watch music, but to also interact. So I was trying my best through, how I could be that medium to help people. A lot of people had anxiety. A lot of people suffered depression. A lot of people lost their loved ones during COVID. It was just a really horrible time. And for me, yoga has helped me get through a lot. Yoga has helped me with so much strength and power. So I felt like if I could give that to other people and bless that, whoever wanted to take it. So I would do weekly yoga online. And like I said, I would do like monthly with two very, very wonderful professionals that did meditation and Pilates. Makeda Bernard and Giselle Sarate. They're two professionals in the wellness space too. So we used to do those and broadcast them on all streaming platforms. So it's just, yeah, that's just the evolution of the type of thing that I love doing, what I was passionate about and love helping others.
Is why I started this magazine, Women's Quarterly. I'm not sure how much you know about it, the background, but I lost my sister. I'm the youngest of four, and I lost my sister. She was 50, but it wasn't to any type of sick, like a terminal illness. She suffered from mental illness her entire adult life. The family that I grew up in kind of played into that. You know, your parents, I try to tell people, I'm not making excuses, but they only have the tools that they're working with, and their tools may be rusty, you know. And so she was bulimic turned anorexic. And we've been doing the magazine now, 4 issues a year for 4 years. And so this will be going into the fifth year. But I thought this podcast, in a literal sense, is giving women a voice because the magazine was supposed to be a space for people to share their journeys. And I'm so thankful that people have been able to take advantage of that. But again, it's nothing like these podcasts. I don't know what number I'm on right now with you, but it's nothing like it. It's healing for me. Maybe I'm selfish. I have a selfish reason for doing it because just the trauma of, like with my mom, I just spent the last few years taking care of her. She had Alzheimer's, and that in itself is something. It just allows women to come on here and have a space to share what they've been through, for people to actually hear that and hopefully someone listening to it, it'll help them too. Because when you're going through something that not everybody has a support system. It seems like what I'm hearing with you and your husband, you guys seem like you're best friends and you're partners and your teams and, but not everyone has that. And so I'm thankful for you for coming on and sharing that. But anyhow, but just based on what you said, that's why from the magazine to the podcast, that's why we started it.
Thank you for sharing that. I really want to say my condolences and may your sister rest in her powers eternally. This is one of the reasons why I put out the album. Like I said, it's like a safe space. It's a spiritual journey. People can listen to it independently or together to take a journey of self-awareness, to sit in your powers, gain your powers back. All of us, our ancestors had tremendous amount of powers and abilities, and we have been dumbed down by society decade after decade, century after century. And tapping into your own self awareness and power is one way of reconnecting with yourself. So I feel like a lot of the times we ask ourselves, why are we going through this? Because everybody's going through something. This is life. This is the life process.
Right.
We're going
That's
through
right.
journeys and
Yes.
challenges and all of these things.
Yes.
And to really realize that is important. So, like, for me, I'm so grateful that you shared that and that you have this space for other women to, share their experience, share what they do to help other women and to empower others.
It's important. I mean, I just feel like my sister never felt like she had a voice because of all what she was going through. And there's a stigma with mental health. I mean, we've gotten a lot better than the era that she came up, but there's still a lot to do. But just women, I'm just in general, I'm just thinking about all the things that we go through. Just like going back to the singer you mentioned, you know, I don't know if I can't even get the words out that she would have that she's having difficulty because she's a mother. I think her child had some sort of was it learning?
I think so, but the label decided, I believe, to drop her because of that. And for me, I didn't want to go through any of that. I was just like, nope, not going to do that. And for women to have to endure that. And we keep on having to endure things, as you
That's what
know.
I mean. That's what I mean. I'm going through menopause and finally my doctor said to me, "I'm sorry, there's just not enough information."
I feel you. So many women that go through breast cancer and breast cancer treatment, they go into forced menopause. It doesn't matter what age you are. So definitely in forced menopause. So I get it. All the hot flashes,
Right, right.
all of the
I'm
different
burning up right
changes.
now. I'm burning up.
Chemotherapy staff nicknamed me Hot Flash because I had every 2 minutes one.
Right.
So I get it. I
My
feel
goodness,
you.
I'm on fire. I love to say it's because of you and your energy, because I mean, your story is amazing, but boy. So listen, I ask everyone this because of age. Most of the women on the show they're of age. They've been somewhere. They've evolved. For anyone listening who may be going through a difficult season, whether health related or spiritual, what's something you wish someone had told you earlier in your journey?
Obviously, when you're younger, unless you're a really evolved soul, evolved spirit, you don't know yet that every challenge has a purpose, that every step on your journey will make you stronger. So just go through it, and whatever you're going through, there's a reason for it and it will pass. I decided not to say, why me? A lot of people who are diagnosed with cancer say, why me?
Mm,
I decided to take it and say, there's a reason for this journey. I was selected to be a part of this journey, to experience this, maybe so that I could be the example for others and help other people. So, yeah, when I was younger, I wish I would have known that. I think when I was a lot younger, it was just singing to sing, singing to be on stage. singing to record a song, but now there's definitely song with purpose and positive word sound with purpose to encourage people to stay strong, to stay healthy, stay positive.
Finally, what's your favorite quote, the one that you come back to when you need a reminder of your unstoppable power?
So there's a lot of words and quotes that I have been influenced. If I'm to name some, like I wrote a bunch of the gurus and the motivational speakers down that have influenced where I've come to today. My family would put on the TV a lot of these motivational speakers or gurus during my cancer treatment to keep me motivated. And that's like BK Shivani, Sri Ravi Shankar, Muji, Les Brown, Kurt Tolle, L. Robbins. There's so many. And all of them have really great quotes and really great advisement. And so for me, if I'm to offer to listeners a quote or something that's positive, a lot of my music, like I said, has positive affirmations. And even with yoga and doing yoga sessions, I would have people repeat positive affirmations or say positive affirmations to themselves. So in my song Worthy, I repeat a positive affirmation that says, I am strong, I am fearless, I am powerful, I am worthy.
I love it, especially the I am worthy. So many women don't realize that they are worthy. So Tam
Yes.
Tam, thank you so much for coming on. Tell our audience where they can connect with you right before we go.
So my main site is flowpage.com/tamtam. But on social media, my handle is at Tam Tam Musical Official. On Instagram and TikTok, it's at Tam Tam Music Official. On Facebook, it's I am Tam Tam Music Official. And on YouTube, you search for Tam Tam Music Official.
Thank you for coming on today and sharing your amazing journey with our audience. It's been a true blessing to have you on today, honestly.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank everyone for listening today. Please like, share, download this episode, and follow the podcast, follow Tam Tam, and learn more about her aspiring journey. I am Ilene Carol, and you've been listening to Unseen to Unstoppable.